right, guys, welcome to Across the Great Iron. Today's Saturday, just the day before the Dallas Cowboys play the Carolina Panthers. This is going to be a 6 o'clock game for us in the United Kingdom. And before I go any further, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button as well, and put some comments into the video. Let me know, what you're liking about the show. I really appreciate all of you that come back, to watch the content and continue to support the channel. So really, really appreciate all of you. Please subscribe. Please share this, across the people that you know. Help us grow this channel, and we'll continue to bring you NFL content from the United Kingdom as well. As I mentioned, across the Great Iron, I'm based in the United Kingdom. You can probably tell that I don't have an American accent. And, I've never played the game of football. And, I fell in love with the sport a couple of years ago. And, since I fell in love with the sport, it's been incredible following the Dallas Cowboys. So I am a Dallas Cowboy fan. However, I am a football fan ultimately. So I do watch a lot of games, and I think I'm getting a good eye, for what looks good and what doesn't look good. And so I'm gonna be talking a little bit more about the Dallas Cowboys today. I did a preview show. Please check my channel for my preview predictions. Let me know what you think I've got right or I've got wrong. I've been doing quite decently, actually, with my predictions. So if you want to check out the predictions, you can do that. So let's get straight into what I wanted to talk about today. So the Cowboys go to Carolina Panthers to play. The Panthers are 1-8 in terms of their record. The Dallas Cowboys are sitting 6-3, and so I went and did on the Panthers, just to kind of see what they're really about, in terms of what's really happening. To the Panthers, are they as bad as their record suggesting? Now you might ask the question and say, well, they're 1-8, they have to be terrible, and sometimes the record is not a real reflection of what a team is. Let's look at last season, for example. Everyone looked at the Vikings in terms of their record, and when they were 9-0 or 10-0, all the way until they met the Dallas Cowboys and they were absolutely pummeled. I think it was 40 something to 3 or something like that. And then people started to suspect, whether the Vikings were really for legit. I remember a couple of seasons ago, the Steelers, had a very convincing record. I think they were like 11-0 or 11-1 or something like that, ridiculous. First game of the playoffs, they were absolutely pummeled, and they didn't win a playoff game. So yes, the record is important, but the record doesn't always tell everything about a team. So the Dallas Cowboys found out the hard way when they played the Arizona Cardinals and ended up losing to the Cardinals, which was their first win, their only win of the season, right until Kyler Murray came back. So that's a different story. So when I look at this team, and first of all, this is no sort of technical analysis or anything like that. I'm just watching it just from a pure fan who's watched hundreds and hundreds of hours of NFL football, and what I can see, my non-technical eye, what I can see. And I know a lot of fans are very similar to me. So they watch the game for the entertainment, but you start to pick up a few things as you watch the game. So so first of all, in terms of their record this season, in close games they've actually been very resilient, right? Their record is 1-3 in close games, and I know they've had losing streaks, but if you unveil what's actually happening within this team, it starts to show you that there is some talent in the team, especially on the defensive side of things. Just on the offense, things are not really clicking. And I really feel sorry for Bryce Young, who's a rookie quarterback, coming into the league. And When you watch the way that they do things in the offense, sometimes I just don't see where he can throw the ball. It's the throwing the ball is such a difficult thing for this team. So, and if and them and get ahead, it's very difficult for me to see them coming back to win the game because they just cannot throw the ball efficiently. Other than Adam Thielen, who is arguably a very very good. He used to be in the Minnesota Vikings before he came here, free agent acquisition, for the Panthers, which I thought was gonna help Bryce Young. But when you look at the way they play, their guys don't get any separation at all, especially in the wide receiver position. A lot of the times, you see the guy before anyone even gets open, people are already on top of him. People are already on top of him. Now, I don't care, what kind of a quarterback you are. If you don't have wide receivers that can actually separate and actually beat, the players that they are matched up against, you're not going to be very good. I remember, Dallas Cowboys when Dak came in, and he was throwing to Des Bryant. You had Jason Whedon, who was his security blanket at that time, and then you had a number of players that were playing. Some other players were playing in the slot. I'm trying to remember the name of this Dallas Cowboy player who was always playing in the slot. I think he eventually went over to which team did he go to? Is it the Patriots? Or so I can't remember. Was it the Bills? I think he has to be the Bills. I think he went over to the Bills, and then we're playing with a lot of they had it wide receiver by committee, and Dak looked awful, really looked awful, until the Dallas Cowboys said, "Wait, hold on a second, what are we doing here? This guy we believe is our franchise quarterback. Let's get him some help." And then they brought in Amari Cooper. They traded for Amari Cooper from the Raiders and changed Dak's life. Because the thing with quarterbacks is that, what they say about repetition, the more games you play, the more you get comfortable, at that position, the more you understand how to play that position. And you don't want to be doing that with mistakes, right? If you ever start a new job and, whoever it is, your instructor, your supervisor, whoever it is that is helping you, learn the ropes. Now, I'm not talking about someone, who's experienced, you've been experienced in the professional. I'm talking about someone who's just fresh out of school. You're a graduate, you're going in. You want to learn the right thing straight off. You don't want to be learning the mistakes. You don't want to be picking up bad habits. You want to be learning all the right things. And I think it's the same with quarterbacks, right? Just as a pure fan looking at it, you want to learn that position, playing, in doing things the right things, understanding what people are doing when they run their routes, how they run their routes, when they should come off, the top of their routes and things like that. And right now in Carolina Panthers, they don't have that. Other than Thielen, and if you take Thielen out of the game, I don't see where he throws the ball to. Some numbers there. So if I look at the Panthers numbers, I'm just looking at that right now. So in terms of stats, they've got 283 total yards per game. That's not really good because that's like 28 in the league. Their rushing yards per game is 90 something, right? 90 thereabout, which is 24th in the league. That's not really really good. All their statistics are bottom of the league. There's just no going about that. Their points per game bottom of the league. And when you compare that to the Cowboys, they're actually in a top. Well, actually, if you really look at it, and the Cowboys, their points per game is actually 19th, which is quite surprising because I would have thought their points per game would actually be quite up there. But the Dallas Cowboys seem to be lopsided. They blow teams out, and then when they are not good, they're very good. Um, so of course, when you average that out, that probably pulls them down a little bit. But their passing yards per game is about 190, which is 24. Now I'm sure that's taking all the 9 games that have been played, and not just the 4 games. Because if you look at just the 4 game, it would mean that the Cowboys are actually astronomical. So when you actually think about that, in terms of the stats and these two teams going head to head, they've got some things that are very, very close with each other. That's actually the truth. Now, the other thing about the Panthers that I was looking at was certainly in terms of Bryce Young. What he does against pressures. So, how does he handle pressures? Very well. Not very good. Dak Prescott is better at handling pressures. I think you're going to be looking at a guy like Dante Jackson, who's probably going to be traveling with CD Lamb. He's one of their better secondary because they have quite a number of injuries there. Xavier Woods was a former Dallas Cowboys. He's on the injury report. I think he might play. I know they were talking about J.C. Horn, who's their cornerback, who's just started practicing, but the game might just be a bit too early, for him to come in, and play. So listen, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have shown that, if they put their mind to it, they can actually put a game together, game that would actually be very, very difficult for opposition to match. And I think that's the real thing here. If Dallas Cowboys play to their potential, this would not be a contest. But the reality is that this is away from home. And the Panthers do things that are very similar to what the Chargers do. And the Cowboys really struggled against the Chargers. We won that game, but it wasn't like a blowout game or anything like that. If, the fact that they had a decent quarterback, made that game very close. But if you remember that game, the Cowboys had a lot of three and outs in that game. They didn't start their drives very, very well. It was just because they were a better team. And the other thing that I have about the Dallas Cowboys away from home is penalties. The Dallas Cowboys get a lot of penalties when they play away from home. Now, you can call that, whether it's home field advantage for the other team in terms of the refs, throwing in all of those penalties. Remember what happened against the Eagles. You also remember what happened against the 49ers. A lot of penalties that were stalling drives for the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys are not really a team that really overcomes penalties. Very, very rarely. Usually the drives, get stopped because of penalties. So if there's one thing that the Panthers might be able to do in this game is create penalty situations for the Dallas Cowboys. And there are some usual suspects when it comes to penalties, and you could target those players if you're the Panthers in terms of being able to stop the Dallas Cowboys drives, because if you don't, they're going to hog onto the clock, bleed everything out of the clock, and then definitely win the game. So you definitely don't want that going on. I mean, historically, the Panthers and the Cowboys, they've always played, a very close game. I don't really see, Cowboys always blowing out the Panthers, even though overall the record favors, the Dallas Cowboys. But we don't play, the Panthers, every so often. So listen, so because we don't see them so often, some sometimes it's very, very, excuse me, sometimes it's very, very difficult to read, how the team will perform. Listen, I just want more of the same, right? About the Dallas Cowboys. I want, feeding Brandon Cooks. I want CD to get the ball, and I also want, an efficient running game. Now that you've figured out how to get the ball to Brandon Cooks and to CD, you need to now figure out the running attack. How do you get Pollard, to be as efficient as he was last season? Because I don't think he's had a 100-yard game so far this season, and you can't survive in the postseason without having a decent running game, because teams are going to make you one dimensional. And when they make you one dimensional, then they're going to say, well, I want you to, beat us just by passing the ball. And this is the NFL, right? The other team gets paid as well. So you can't expect that you're always going to rip up every defense, because if the talent, doesn't match yours, there are coaches that will scheme, to match you as well. Whether it's, creating confusion for Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is pretty good at reading coverages and pre-snap, things and that, but you can still fool him, right? And still get, interception, or quarterbacks, right? If you scheme properly, you can still fool them. So I think the Dallas Cowboys have to be, prepared for this game. They cannot take anything for granted. They need to treat this like a home game, even though it's not. But what I mean by that is that they need to treat this game with all the seriousness because, hey, listen, the league is really, really open for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, most people are expecting the Eagles to lose against the Chiefs. And whatever happens, the Eagles have got a stretch right now where the Dallas Cowboys can make up some ground. And what you want to do is not lose that opportunity. You want to take advantage of every single opportunity that you have. So, what do you guys think will be the deciding factor in this game? I know everybody's calling it, a whitewash. The bookmakers are calling it a whitewash. But what do you think the Dallas Cowboys need to be careful for? So put that into the comment, in the comment section below. Now, before I wrap up this, I actually wanted to do a bit of something that I don't typically do in the channel. And before I do that, please grab, the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and hit that notification bell. So when I do upload things, you can also see, what I'm doing as well. Now, I thought to myself, who are the people that, are calling things in the Panthers? Frank Rice is the coach, and they just made some changes right now, and he's now going to be calling the offensive play as well. He's going to take the play calling duties himself. Now, sometimes that might make a difference because it means that he might have a style of calling the plays that you might not actually have seen. So from a Dallas Cowboys, we might have to be adjusting on the fly, and maybe that's just enough, right, for the Panthers, right? You want to keep the Cowboys guessing, and if you have a chance to go in front, and we all know that the Dallas Cowboys are not really great playing from behind, maybe you have a chance in this game. But I want to take a special look at the defensive coordinator for the Panthers because that's not the side of the ball that is really, really struggling. And the guy been doing some decent things as well. His name is Ejiro Evero, and this is his first season as a defensive coordinator for the Panthers. And so he was actually, let's see, in terms of his NFL, he actually worked for the Broncos. And when he worked for the Broncos, they were number seven in the NFL in terms of the defense. And total defense was 320 yards per game. They were 10th in rushing defense and second in opening third down conversion percentage. That's 34.1. That's really, really good. The team, they finished top 10 in opening points as well. And their defense overall just ran outside of the top 10 in a number of categories. Right, so we're just talking about, and when he was, coaching for the Rams actually in 2021, they ranked third, tied third for interceptions. They had 19 interceptions. I had 10 different players that recorded at least one pick. Jalen Ramsey was there. I mean, arguably the talent was better in the Rams. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this guy does know how to coach. And, the Dallas Cowboys should not take him, very, very likely, as well, because I think that, he's got the capability of causing some major, major damage to the Dallas Cowboys. So, listen, guys, that was it. I just wanted to, briefly come on here and talk about the Dallas Cowboys in terms of that game. I mean, what do I think will happen in the game in terms of predictions? I'm not gonna, disrespect the Panthers and go for a blowout game. I think this game, if we win 31-20, and you might ask, how are they gonna, score a touchdown in the game? But I think their defense can hold their own, and giving short fields, to the Panthers because really that's how I see them scoring. I don't think they are capable of doing long drives, starting at their 10-yard line, going all the way to the end zone to score. But I mean, it's an NFL team, right? So if you give an NFL team, a short field, if they're having to start from their 40, or just across midfield, there's every chance that they're gonna come away with points. Whether that's a touchdown or field goal, there's every chance that that's going to happen. So, for me, I think they can score on the Dallas Cowboys if the Dallas Cowboys don't take their time and they don't play with the same amount of urgency. But I'm going to go with 31-20, Dallas Cowboys to win a very tricky game and then settle in for a couple of home games at the AT&T Stadium. So let me know what you think. What do you think your score prediction will look like? And I will do my reactions to the NFL games on Sunday. More specifically, everybody wants to see how the Chiefs and the Eagles get on, including myself as well. That's going to be a very late game for us in the United Kingdom, and we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Right, that's been my time, guys. Thank you all, for watching as well. I appreciate all the likes. I appreciate the comments. Continue to subscribe to the channel as well, and I'll see you in the next video.